Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Better Bots podcast. In this episode, we talk with Chris Lyle. He is the founder of Compfox.io. It's a really cool SaaS application for attorneys in the workers' compensation field in California. I've had the honor of working with them for about a year now, watching this idea grow just from the initial concept on the drawing board all the way to now having live users being featured in news articles and even expoing at a conference coming up soon in California. It's a really awesome tool that uses AI to help attorneys do research much faster and put their case arguments together so they can save time and make more money. And that's the whole idea with SaaS and with AI. So, in this conversation, we talked about where the idea came from, we went about implementing it, and any advice he would give to other SaaS founders out there looking to launch their own idea. Check out the links in the description and enjoy the conversation.
Cool. And so, yeah, like I was saying, really, man, I just want to talk about, the last year that we've been together working on this project and really excited to share with everybody that listens to this and, anybody that sees this, just how cool this AI hype cycle really is. And really, there's a lot of hype, but there's also a lot of utility. And so I'm really excited to show where that utility can be found in the market and, what kind of opportunities you can have. With that, welcome to the Better Bots podcast. We are going over Compfox today with the founder, Chris Lyle. And Compfox is a really cool app, and I've had the honor of working with him for the last year on this. And today we're just going to kind of talk about the overall journey of how you kind of got started thinking about this and what the original thoughts were and the original ideas and how those transpired and what the effort ultimately ended up being and where you're at now, including some recent pretty exciting publications, I understand. So
Yeah.
really excited to talk about that. So thanks so much for taking some time to chat with me today, bro.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I mean, we talk every week, but we'll
I
talk some
know,
less.
I know it feels a little different when it's in a podcast setting, but it's also fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess the best place to start for me is like where we kind of first got connected because originally, you were working on Law Hustle, right, which you still very much own and run. So for background for everybody, just tell everybody what you do and then how Law Hustle kind of relates into that.
Yeah, I mean, sure. So actually, obviously, I'm an attorney. I practice law in California. I specifically do patent prosecution, essentially. I do hardware and software patents for essentially nerds is what I do all day long. So anyways, I talk hardware software all day long, people. But through the course of me being a patent attorney, like I had a buddy from law school come back to me at one point and say like, "Hey, I'm tired for working for the man. I want to open up my own firm." And I'm just like, and my partner, like the guy who was asking me this, he does workers' compensation law, like stuff I know absolutely nothing about at all. And I was like, well, why would I open up a firm for that? Because I don't even know any of that stuff. So, anyways, after some back and forth, we agreed that like I would run the business, I would do all the tech stuff because that's what I'm good at, and he would just manage all the cases. So we have a firm now that obviously manages workers' comp cases, and we have about I mean, I'll get to the number later, like kind of how it
Mhm.
transpired. But anyways, we started with like literally no cases. Like maybe my partner brought 3 cases with him, maybe when we started the firm or something like that. But
Yeah.
anyways, through the course of this journey of growing a firm, marketing agencies, trying to figure that all out, right? And then I stumbled across like obviously GHL. Everybody knows what GHL is now, the days and the effort. But I was at the very, very beginning back in 2018. So I got to be along for the journey for a long time as I made friends with Varun at the very beginning of this whole thing. So, and then Sean convinced me to make Law Hustle because we made something unique for our law firm that has tremendously made a ton of cases for us. I think when we started our firm, like I said, we had like 2 cases. I think right now, live in litigation, we probably have about 450 cases
Jesus.
live right now. And then a total cases we've taken in for the firm, I would say it's probably north of like 600, 700 cases total for our firm since we started
Dang.
back in like 2016, which was like mid-year, within a full year, with like a half of a year maybe.
Yeah.
But 2018 is like when it really picked up because now we had all this automation in place. We implemented things much sooner than a lot of the people like you, like dialogue flow, all these other things into our Law Hustle setup to like make this whole process seamless. But anyways, that's kind of like where it all started, right? But then building that SaaS company has transitioned into like other ventures that I've gone into. And one of them happens to be this whole Compfox thing that we talked about that we've been working on for a while. Well, I've been working on it, but your team's been helping me fix it. So
Right. And
yeah.
that's a really good background. And so what I really like about it too is that, the software as a service model itself, even though it's been around for a while, I've definitely seen it pick up quite a bit in the last, let's say 3 or 4 years. And it's really cool, especially when you see like actual attorney and practice owners who have real world use cases and they can turn around and turn that into like software opportunity. And that's honestly super common with a lot of the founders that we work with. And that's why it was so exciting when you came to talk to me because like you said, I was doing some stuff with Dialogflow and we'd met at the high level conference. And for anybody who's not listening, high level is a really cool SaaS tool. And I'll probably have a link in the description of this so you can check it out. But it's a really cool way to get into SaaS, especially for people who are looking for like a CRM and automation tool and stuff like that. And so we got to chatting and he was kind of asking me about AI and all this stuff with Chat GPT that's been going on. And, he's obviously, you've been really keeping up with it yourself. And I feel like you nerd out on this stuff pretty much as I do. And
Yep.
the only difference is, I'm working on the application side and you were working more so on the marketing automation side. And so when we got together to talk about it, it was really cool to just kind of get your vision and see what you did in Bubble already with like a no code builder, just kind of prove out a prototype of like, there's a real problem in this industry. And this is like one of the things that we talk about with DAS a lot is like, where do the opportunities lie? Because a lot of people are like, okay, I want to have a software as a service. I want to implement that, as a revenue stream, but it's like, they're trying to go out of their way to find problems that they either don't understand or they see but it's not actually a common core issue. It's not a real pain point for a lot of people. And so being able to like really see like, okay, what in the overall workflow of the attorney workflow takes the most amount of time and how can that be automated? So I mean, you want to talk about just like what the initial idea behind Compfox was and kind of how you started with it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't all my idea. It was mostly like my partner's idea, but we,
Okay.
obviously we have the wherewithal to bring it to light, I guess you would say, right? But essentially, like my partner practices workers' compensation. Workers' compensation happens to be this administrative court thing. It doesn't really necessarily fall into like the traditional court system of California. It's kind of like this ugly redheaded stepchild over here on the side, right? Like no, it doesn't really go into the traditional court system. So but it has similar procedures. Like you file a claim for your insurance stuff, and then if you want to appeal it, it goes up to this board, and they call it the Workers' Comp Appeal Board. Essentially, what it is, and you think of it as I wouldn't say it's the Supreme Court, but think of it as something like that. You present your case in front of a panel of judges who hear your arguments, and then they collectively make a decision after you're done on whatever that issue is that you're disputing or whatever it is on appeal. But all those decisions are public record. However, in the workers' comp industry, they're not readily available for us to do legal research on. And if you know anything about practicing law or know anything about attorneys, the whole reason people win cases is because they can persuade the judge or the jury based on law and facts and previous court decisions. So, anyways, at the end of the day, they were not available to us. Like my partner was just frustrated. He's like, you know what? We want to present the best cases possible for our clients, but we can't find the cases to support our arguments to say that like, no, this is dumb. You should decide this way so anyways, it was just a long thing. So we decided to just fix it. So he had this idea. He's like, you know what? He's like, nobody has these cases anywhere. He's like, there's a few resources out there where you can get them, but they're not really like searchable. They're not, you can't really find the things you need. So we just decided to aggregate all the cases ourselves and kind of put them in a database and sell the database essentially to people is what it is. But through the course of that, I also wanted to change the way legal research is done because the second aspect of this is legal research sucks. Legal research sucks for attorneys so bad. I mean, talk about having to spend hours and hours reading or not only finding something, but then reading it, analyzing it. How does that apply to my case? Like, can I use this? Can I not use this? And then crafting an argument around that to tie it all together in some sort of brief that you're going to present to the court or something like that, right? That process in and of itself sucks, really sucks. And so it's very time
Yeah, yeah.
consuming. And, I mean, attorneys, we went to law school, but we also didn't go to law school to like sign our life away and work 24/7, right? Like I want to
Literally,
go to my
yeah.
kid's baseball game or my
Yeah.
kid's soccer game or whatever it is, right? I don't want to spend my hours doing legal research. But anyways, this is kind of how this all came about. It's like
Right.
one, the stuff wasn't readily available for the attorneys to make good cases for their clients. And two, I just thought legal research sucked in general. So it was a good opportunity just to layer in some AI and kind of walk it through how I think legal research should be done. So like you can dwindle 20, 30 plus hours of research down to like less than one.
Right. And the coolest thing about it is like initially the idea really did start not even with AI at the focus, but just we used Elasticsearch, just it was can we make a searchable database that can present, reasonably relevant cases to the person who's searching for it so that they can build a case a lot quicker and, really create a really good experience for them during the research. Because like you said, man, like that's so much time and just time is the most valuable resource that we have. So, pouring over hundreds or thousands of documents. I mean, I think the total document count was in the tens of thousands, as we were trying to import these documents to the database. So, like
Yeah.
that's huge, when you have that many, when you have that big of a database, being able to intelligently go across all of it quickly the easiest way you can do that before AI was always like, you could do vector search, but it wasn't as advanced as it is now, And then, of course, when ChatGPT started going just absolutely bananas and everybody was freaking out about it, that's when we were like, all right, there's something here. And so I'm really excited about the path that it's going down now and just kind of the shape that it's taking with a lot of the features that are really centered around making the research experience as easy as possible. And I mean, it's not like you're the only one in the entire legal industry that's seeing this, like there's tons of other software out there like Case Text. And I mean, there's either like supposedly a startup now called Harvey AI that's also like a legal research AI,
Yeah.
but they're
And then
still
your
closed.
traditional ones in the market like LexisNexis and Westlaw are like the traditional
Right.
ones for legal research as well.
Right. And so that's what is beautiful about like this kind of just tech startup environment is that like somebody's always going to see something of like I can make it better than that. Like I can definitely make it better for at least for my application. And the whole question that everybody kind of has right now is how is AI actually useful, I guess. That's really
Yeah.
like how like AI is cool, having a chatbot is cool, but it's more about like what can it actually be applied to, like what can
Yeah.
it actually do in the real world that's tangible because I was actually just listening to another podcast the other day that was you ever listen to like the All In podcast with like Chamath and Jason?
Yeah.
They're like this, yeah. So shout out to that podcast. But I was listening to them and they were pointing out how much money has been invested into AI infrastructure versus the return that's actually being felt in the market right now, and like
Yeah.
how much money is kind of just being poured into anything and everything that has AI attached to it, but not a lot of it is actually producing a real utility output that can be measured of tangible return. And so it's like having this kind of application where it literally plugs into your research path that you would have to do anyway. Like you have to do this as part of it because the only way we have data stored right now is at its best electronic format, right? But then still analyzing and processing that text is insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think from everything we've been building so far, like where do you see what are you most excited about moving forward to make Compfox better and better?
I mean, at its fundamental thing, it's just making my life easier or my partner's life easier or anybody who does legal research easier. I mean, right now we are only focusing on workers' comp, right? We would love to make this a national thing. We're not quite there yet. Obviously, we'll get there, but it's useful for us for like foundationally, like time is money. You don't get time back. Like there's only so much time in your lifetime and you only have a certain set amount of it, right? So like you can't waste it all doing legal research. So my ultimate goal was just make that process quicker and make it easy. I mean, people think of AI like, or especially in the legal world. I don't know if in all the other industries, it's probably not the same, but in the legal industry, people are very skeptical of it. Like they're starting to come around to the idea right now because I don't know if you heard about that case about that guy in New York who essentially drafted an entire brief with Chat GPT and filed it with the court, and it just made up case law.
Nice.
And yeah, he got reamed for that.
Nice.
So anyways, things like that are happening, right? Because
Yeah.
people are not doing their due diligence on things, but there's also a lot of firms that are implementing AI in their own firewalls for their entire infrastructure that do like drafting contracts because they have a slew of database of contracts they can draft contracts from as well. So it's going there. I think people worry about it, but we embarked on this like pivot to go down this path with you. It's like we wanted to focus on like the AI assisting our legal minds, right? Like we're the
Yeah.
attorney, like we know where we want to go with our case and how we want to get to the end result. We're just using AI as a tool to speed up the segments in the middle of it, right? So like we're
Right.
just saying like, okay, how can I find the case? Okay, I found the case. How can I do this more? Like you're just getting to the end result quicker, but you're still using the attorney's mind to get to the result quicker. So like AI is not going to replace attorneys, in my personal opinion. I mean, maybe at some
Yeah.
point in the future, but right now it's you still have to have some sort of like strategy behind what you're doing,
Yeah.
and the
It's like
AI
a
and our platform
co-pilot.
just assist to make it quicker. That's essentially what it comes down
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, and it's like a co-pilot, and that's really the popular domain that a lot of these tools that are the most useful coming out seem to be, is like you can't always express exactly what you want through natural language commands. Like you can't always get perfect output every single time, but you can have a co-pilot that is able to process and, kind of do research with you and bring up things faster, because indexing is fundamentally the problem for any kind of research. Like, how do you index the papers? How do you index the data so that it's quickest to get? And AI, especially natural language AI, is really, really good at indexing it. And it's really, really cool when I get to look at the back end of like what we've built with Compfox, because it's like it's not just a simple chat, one and done interface. Like there's a string of agents that are doing a lot of stuff in the background that are all kind of talking to each other and passing input and output. And so a lot of that normally has to be done manually by a person, but it's like the best way I can describe it is like you just get reports on reports on reports. Instead of documents, you just get reports. It's like here's a report that is a summary of these documents as it relates to your case. And here's some suggested other cases. And like you can ask questions against the case and kind of get feedback. So it's like having a chat bot that, everybody loves with Chat GPT, and being able to have that kind of feedback, but also being able to, like still maintain your own independence of like how I'm the one leading this case. I'm putting the arguments together in a certain way. So yeah, it's gonna be crazy, man. And again, like I said, I can't wait to see where we go with it. So I'm sure a lot of people listening to this want to find out how they can use it. In case you haven't already seen the incredible articles published about you, which is freaking sick. If you need any kind of indication as to how it's going, because we just went like we had like a really small quiet beta for like a couple, let's say I said like a few weeks, where we let few people test it out, try it, give us feedback, and then now we've actually started taking on some users, letting people sign up and give us their feedback. And I believe you already expoed in what publications?
Venture Post is obviously one of them, and then obviously LA Weekly is another one we had an article published in, and then MSN obviously is another one as well. But yeah, like I wouldn't say frequently, but I would say periodically, where I mean we're talking to VCs all the time about like our what we're doing and kind of where we're going, and like they're all seem like somewhat interested. Some people are just not even. But the legal tech market right now, as it relates to legal research and AI, coupling those two together, like the market is huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And
Yeah.
not only is it huge, your ideal client it has money. So they're all going to
Yeah.
spend money on it. So it's a good storm right now, I think. But I mean, obviously we need the resources to get bigger and grow stronger. And we have a lot of the features coming down the pipeline to help streamline this whole process. Everything from like, right now we're just doing search, chatting with cases, making folders of cases, chatting with entire folders, and like kind of dwindling all down. So now we're gonna get to the point where like we're making documents and people can start briefing or start drafting the documents that are inside of our platform as well. So it's gonna go down to the point where like you come in, you do your legal research, and then the output maybe an hour later is like your entire brief done with all your arguments, all the case law, and then you just file with the court and you're done.
Yeah, and like from a tangible perspective, again, because we're talking about real world utility here, we're talking about actual return on investment. The reason I truly believe this is going to become a standard tool that pretty much all firms in this practice area use is because the actual tangible amount of time that it saves you while you're doing this. Like it's easy to say that something saves you time, but having seen how this thing interacts with the existing case data and with the user, it's a totally different case. Like people are using ChatGPT to write entire blog posts, create entire sales summaries, like do all this stuff, and that saves hours of time. Same thing here. The most limiting factor for a firm, from my understanding, really is how fast can I get through the processing of this case? How well are the arguments put together? What's my win rate based off of the research that I've done? So it's like you can't just sacrifice time for quality. It has to be quick and high quality. And that's really where the AI tool comes in handy, because it does it so well and so quickly. It's like
Yeah.
instantaneous.
And also at the end of the day, like another reason why kind of we did this, and it's kind of like a back shelf type of thing. But it's essentially helping the legal industry as a whole and our small sector become better. Because if you really think about it, if nobody had access to these cases, right? So when judges would decide on these cases at the board level, one judge may decide right, the other judge is going to decide left on the same issue. But ideally, the way the court system works is like if Judge A decides this, and your case comes after that decision, you have to follow the previous case decision because that's what the judge, right? So, anyways, right now, what I'm saying is like it's like the wild, wild west out there. Like judges are just making their decisions based off of whatever argument they're coming up with, and there's no cohesiveness of like how they're all put together. So I'm hoping that this tool enlightens our industry that like, hey, we can make this whole entire system better. Like we can make sure that like these claims are handled properly, like the clients get better results. They're not like wild, wild west decisions, right? At the end of
Yeah.
the day, it comes down to like maybe the board will become, instead of having to hear like thousands of cases, maybe they'll hear half the amount of cases, but they're more relevant cases because they're actual, disputes versus them being
Right.
like something stupid that could have been decided at like the
The
court
lower
level.
level.
And like
Yeah.
that may completely go over everybody's head that's listening to this, but the point I'm trying to make is I think it'll help the industry become more standardized with like how case results end up, if that makes any sense, right? And if everybody has
Right.
access to it, the results for clients are going to be the same. And then at the end of the day, what we're essentially doing is making the industry better and better and better as time
Right.
goes on, right? So
Yeah, that's why it's not just a nice to have, and that's really again circling back to that the real world utility of like a lot of chat things that are like chat features and chat functionalities and stuff that are attached to stuff, they're really just kind of like cool. It's not necessary and it's not really saving a lot of time. It's just like, hey, we have an AI. And the amount of the market that they're actually serving is really, really low. But when you have something like this that's actually the fundamental process of the entire industry, besides, the actual in-person part of it, but the actual behind the scenes stuff that takes the most amount of time away from being able to be in court and present these cases. That's why it's again not just like a fluffy little like, oh, look at me, shiny object. It's like here's how we use, real world AI. And we brought in some legit AI people to help with this, like people who specialize in fine tuning models, handling large data sets, stringing models together. And I've been super impressed by them with what they've
yeah.
built. And, I think it's really going to serve a lot of people in a very short amount of time. And you're going to be sponsoring at an event soon, right?
Yeah, actually, we're going to the California Applicant Attorney Association conference, which is, I think it's next week. It's next week. It's next week. And it's just like a 3-day event. But I mean, everybody in that conference room or that exhibit hall is going to be our ideal clients. It's everybody who represents injured workers in the state of California are going to be sitting in that room. So hopefully
Yeah.
that we walk out of there with a decent chunk of users, hopefully, right? Because I want to be honest, like we're in this transition period of like law, in my personal opinion. Like the old timers, those people, they're retiring. They're selling
Yeah.
their firms to the younger people, right? People around my
Yeah.
age or a little bit younger, right? So like they're all coming out. And the people that are old timers that are leaving, don't get me wrong, like those guys paved the way for a lot of us, but they still use yellow pads of paper. They take, paper files with them to court. They're not necessarily in line with this whole thing. They just think like, you know what, I've been doing it this way for 50 years. I'm going to continue to do it that way, right? But when the younger generation like us and like maybe younger than us, they understand the power of technology and like what it could do. So I'm hoping that now that this wave is transitioning, we're kind of set the stage for like something completely different in this
Yeah.
particular area of law, which in my personal opinion doesn't really get much attention and
Yeah.
honestly, right? So, but I think we'll see a lot of good stuff. So I'm hoping that people at this conference, when they see what we put together, because
Yeah.
maybe they're not necessarily on Facebook or they're not necessarily like, scrolling the websites to try to figure out the best research tool, right? Because
Yeah.
they've been doing it the same way for 30 years, obviously, right? Maybe they'll
Yeah.
come to our booth and be like, and I'd
Yeah,
be
no, for sure. Yeah, I think some people are definitely going to give you that response, like what you said, like, why are you just trying to add a shiny thing to something that we've been doing the same way for decades? But then a lot of people are going to get it and they're going to be like, whoa, like,
yeah.
how can I use this and take their clients before they figure it out? Like it's gonna be super cool. So I'm really excited for you to do that, man. And it's been really fun helping you build this, and I'm super excited with where we're at now. Obviously we want bigger, better things, and like there's gonna be a lot of really cool stuff that we're gonna eventually get to work on. But the coolest thing to me is like I said, you have your real world experience that you're bringing with you, and like your partner's real world experience of like tangible things that AI or just software in general need to solve. So, what I'd love to hear from you is just like any kind of advice of anybody that's like in any industry. I mean, maybe not legal, but like I talk to people who are photographers, people who are real estate agents, people who are brokers, like all different kinds of industries that have, B2C services, B2B services. Like I hear different kind of SaaS ideas all the time. And so I'm just curious, like what would be any advice now that you're about a year into this, like fully building out this application and you're expoing it at different events and you're getting featured in articles, like from where we started to now, like what would be your biggest, I guess, like advice or just kind of feedback on what they can expect and what the most important things they can do are?
I mean, things I've learned through the whole course of this is like obviously the jury's still out with Compfox, right? We haven't necessarily got to those numbers that we want yet, and I really love to get to those numbers so we can start expanding to the states, right? But I got to tackle one state first, which is the state we're in that I physically practice law in. And once we dominate, then we can expand, right? So that's one thing, right? But two is when you go into develop, like if you have a real world use case for something that can make an industry better or just in general that could be applicable to like millions or thousands or whatever people, right? Mine's like, for example, our pilot is a small niche of attorneys in California only. Most people be thinking like, Chris, why are you only going after California attorneys, right? But my plan is to go bigger, but we got to conquer one first, right? So like
Yeah.
start small to figure it out of like what exactly is your real world application, how you're going to apply it. But when it comes to development stuff, trust me, we spoke with developer companies who gave us astronomical quotes. We've talked with people that do Bubble, which is no code, and we've had a version of our app built on Bubble first, right? To kind of prototype it. Obviously we built it in Figma first, make sure we got like those market fit first for like people that wanted it first. But I mean, look into your developer stuff. People think when they got to develop an app, I got to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Don't get me wrong. We spent quite a bunch of money ourselves with this, but I mean, like, for example, like you guys found me two awesome devs, right? Or three
Yeah.
awesome devs, right? Or I think I've gone through like five at this point with you, or maybe four at this point, right? But they've all had expertise in like areas that we needed to tackle each time away,
Right.
right? But the amount of money that I paid for them versus hiring, for example, another company that would like I think they gave me like a $800,000 quote or something like that
Wow.
to build an MVP. And
Yeah.
I'm still way below that, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I would just think about your options, right? Don't go with like, the big companies like or they're outsourced like they're all their dev team for you. Anyways, that's one thing I've learned, right? I've gone through
Yeah.
Bubble. I wish I would have never built a Bubble app now that I talked to you, right? And that was the conversation we had at GHL. It's like, oh, we built this in Bubble, and then you told me the devs we can get and the criteria that expertise they had. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much better, right? And
Yeah.
then they started building it, and I was like, gosh, shit, I should have done this from the very beginning, right? Because I would have saved
Yeah.
so much money. So, anyways, you got to really evaluate your decision on this.
Yeah.
But
So really,
if
you
you got,
don't know what you don't know though. And that's the big thing is a lot of people just want to go, 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 go. And like, yeah, spending some time to just get input from a lot of people from different backgrounds and different expertise and stuff like that is really helpful and doing all the evaluations. So
yeah,
yeah, and also the biggest thing too is like just take action. Like that's really what it seemed like to be the biggest thing because like Compfox wasn't even the first thing that you really did in the SaaS world. Like, you had Law Hustle, which is a full automation platform for lawyers and does a lot of the marketing automation and nurture and stuff like that.
yeah.
And so again, it's a real world problem where like firms probably weren't doing their own marketing follow up. They weren't doing anything to actually get new leads, get new appointments. And so using an automation tool that you just became the master of, you learned how it worked, you learned how to do all the configurations and stuff. That was at least the first step of action of like, oh, okay, people will pay for a software recurring, like
Oh
on a
yeah.
consistent basis, and they will incorporate it as part of their workflow and never let it go.
It's if you're solving like for a simple goal, right? You're not like the simple goal for Law Hustle, for example, right? Getting more cases out of your current marketing budget. Like it's
Right.
simple. It's like if
Yeah.
you're spending $5,000 a month and you're signing 5 cases or 10 cases, we want to double or triple that for you just by being more efficient with like your whole follow up and getting a lead to the consultation stage, right? That's a real world, easy thing to say. If you're
Yeah.
spending 5, I want to get you more cases out of it, period. Like that's
Yeah.
easy, right? Same thing in Compfox. Like if you're spending 30 hours on research, I want to make that 1 hour for you. Like it's
Yeah.
just like they're easy world things to like translate to attorney. Like attorney knows that they want more business and they want more cases, and they also don't want to spend more money on marketing. So that's real application, right? And same thing for research. They know they need to do research because they have to do research because we're obligated to do that kind of stuff, but they don't want to spend 30 hours doing it. So we take the time element back from them, right? So that's just, if you
Yeah.
have something that, it's tangible for the end user to like realize, it's easy.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the software. It's like, what are you giving the end user at the end of the day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Time, money, whatever it is,
Yeah,
right?
well, and like you said, it's like once you identify, okay, that's the macro goal, right? It's like overall, let's get more cases out of the budget. But then it's like, okay, what goes into the process of getting more cases out of the budget? Where are the limiting factors and what can software do to ease some of that? Where are the automation opportunities? And like what your project to me has really showed is that as technology evolves and new things come out like large language models that are able to do this kind of stuff, your vision of how you help people has to change, right? And so it's like originally it was just being able to do simple automations and high level, but eventually you can have a conversational AI booking appointments and doing screenings and doing all different kinds of marketing campaigns. So it's like as the technology progresses, the only thing you have to input, really. I mean, you may have hard costs too, but those are more investments. The time investment is understanding how the tools work and how they can do things in your workflow. And that's what a lot of people like when they ask me like what's the first step I can do? It's like just spend that time to just learn the tool, be obsessed for a little bit, get compulsive and just practice using it, practice making cool stuff and then, go from there.
Yeah, but just don't practice all the time. Actually implement it in real life situations, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I mean
that's the
don't just
the
build for building's sake, right? Like you got to
yeah.
build to solve something.
I mean,
Um,
that's how I
yeah.
like, Law Hustle, for example, was, right? Or even Compfox. It's like I come up with crazy ideas, or like my partner will set the foundation of like, I wanted to be able to do this. I'll come up with a crazy idea of how to make it work. I'll implement it, test it in my law firm and see how it works, right? Same thing with Compfox. Like, hey, we just put something else new in Compfox. Can you test it this week and see, let me know how it turns out, right? So like my firm is essentially like the QA QC department for a lot
Yeah.
of stuff we built.
Yeah. Exactly. But again, real world utility. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I'm super excited. I think you got a real winner here. I've said it for a while, and I can't wait for this expo coming up. I think you're going to do really good at it, and we're going to have a lot of new trials. If any investors want to have a chat with Chris, feel free. I think he's open to having that conversation. But keep in mind, we are still focused on, making the product as accessible as we can, and we're really moving quickly. So we don't have too much time to slow down and try to explain ourselves. So if you get it, reach out to us. But if not, keep cheering us on.
Yeah. Very on. I mean, I'm always open to having a discussion, especially if like, you have a campfire, you want to pour gasoline on it. I'm for it, right?
Yeah,
Right. So
exactly. But it's gonna grow regardless. That's the thing. That's the biggest thing I'm saying is like, yeah, everybody I tell about this, even if they're not a lawyer, they're like, oh, dang, I wish I would have done that. Like, I tell a lot of people about this, especially when I go to tech meetups and stuff. And it's like, man, yeah, I can see how AI can make legal research like a hell of a lot easier and really be a cool opportunity.
I mean, not even that. We've talked about this offline a few times about it's like even like just the technology that we've built in and of itself, like the value is, yeah, it's in the database, right? It's something that's not available to our clientele, right? Nobody has the cases, right? But then we add the whole entire layer on top of it with AI, which is doing stuff, right? But this could be applied to like any enterprise environment. What if we employed the same thing in somebody's enterprise and they downloaded or put in all their entire database into our stuff and you had the same interaction with it, right? It's like the application of what we did is better. It's like doing research and getting to the end result quicker, right? It's just
Yeah,
what data set are you going to give it? And the same thing applies for like, okay, right now work comp law, right? Obviously, right? But what if I wanted to do personal injury, right? Like I can aggregate all the negligent cases and now you have one specific database specifically related to negligence and personal injury cases, right?
right.
I'm pretty sure personal injury attorneys would pay for that because now that instead of having this big database, which is case text and all the case law that's essentially applicable in there, you're narrowing it down to like one cause of action, which is negligence, for example, right? and you have a small subset to go off of and like get more accurate research or better outcome outputs, right?
Yeah.
Versus having to like scour the internet for thousands of different things or case
Yeah.
databases.
Or even having like a network of agents. That's really like if you listen to some of the big names in AI today, like that's what they're saying is going to be the future is strings of agents. It's going to be multiple agents that all work together and have different specializations and they're able to kind of feed off of each other. And so in this kind of case, it's going to be the same thing where it's like there's going to be, like you said, different specializations of agents who are all going to be the best at knowing how to find different, relevant cases and help you build all that up. So,
Yeah. The
yeah,
biggest
man,
hurdle is making unstructured data into structured data. I mean, that's
that's
probably the
it.
biggest feat right there.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, luckily that's becoming like a specialization task in a lot of AI applications now. Is like people realize that language models are really good at that. And so like setting up pipelines that can just do that quickly, that's really becoming popular. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, man, well, hey, I really appreciate you hopping on here with me. And if anybody wants to find out about Compfox, just check out compfox.io. Just keep your eye out because next thing you know, it's going to be one of the top hitting legal apps easily, especially after people start getting wind of it and people start really understanding what it is. They're not ready.
I agree. I think the biggest thing in the legal world is just getting people past their old ways of doing things, right? As soon as they realize what they can do with it, I think it'll be a different story. But we got to get
Yeah.
there. We're not there yet.
Yeah. But we are not that far away. I'm telling you, this is going to be sick. Cool. Well, I'm telling you, it's inspire. You're gonna inspire somebody. Somebody's gonna listen to this and be like, "Damn, like that's pretty cool. I want to do something like that." So, I appreciate your insights, and we'll probably do another one of these in like 6 months and see where you're at.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, man. Talk to you later.
Thanks.